After about a day and a half of sightseeing in Hong Kong, I then continued on my bucket list vacation south to Australia, starting in Melbourne on the southernmost part of the east coast, and then working my way up along the coast from there. My flight from Hong Kong left a little bit after midnight. It was about 8.5 hours, and with the time difference, I arrived the next morning in Melbourne at about 11 in the morning. It was a smooth flight on a really, really nice airplane. Melbourne is the capital of the Australian state of Victoria, and with an urban area of about 5 million, it is the second largest city in Australia, right behind Sydney. There are several historic railroad stations in the city. Here's one of them in the picture. There's a river that goes from east to west, bisecting the city, north and south, and you see that here. Very modern city, a lot of development in the urban area. See some skyscrapers here. I rested most of the day after coming in from Hong Kong, but I did manage to catch a really nice sunset before heading out for my adventure the next day. The next morning, I met our tour guide at 6 a.m. and we embarked on one of the more popular tours in the Melbourne area, and that's the Great Ocean Road. At the end of World War One, several thousand soldiers returned home to Australia. The government decided to hire them to construct the Great Ocean Road. Prior to this, there had been no road along the coast to connect the scattered towns and villages. The project started in 1919 and was completed in 1932. The section down to the 12 Apostles rock formations is traveled by many minibus tours every single day. Because most tours go straight down the coast, ending up at the 12 Apostles around lunchtime, it creates a huge traffic jam down there. So our itinerary took the reverse, and we went down through the inland areas to 12 Apostles and then reversed back up along the map you saw earlier, along the coast back up to Melbourne. By now, you're probably wondering what on earth are the 12 Apostles? They're actually a collection of limestone stacks. You see them off the shore there, sticking up out of the water. There may have been about 12 to begin with, but due to erosion, only about 8 remain. So we're parking up at the top and are going to walk on down to the shore to take a better look.
Here we are. Amazing place.
Here you get a quick view of the stairs we're going on down and a little video clip as I was trying to video while holding on at the same time to get an idea of the height of the cliffs versus the beach here. And after a few obligatory selfies, gives you an idea of the size of the cliffs too. Now we'll take a look at a video clip I made.
It's called the 12 Apostles. I'm not exactly sure why. I guess what you see there was one of the 12, but I don't think they ever were 12. But they're made of limestone, so they're gradually disappearing back into the ocean. Speaking of which, definitely springtime here. Bet you they get some storms.
Now that we had visited the 12 Apostles, we were actually going back towards Melbourne on the Great Ocean Road. And after a while, we had a turnoff into a little parking area, and we're now going to walk the 400 meters down to a place called Razorback for some more photo opportunities. Print is too small to read, but basically what it says is that the upper areas, the roughness is caused by water spray, hardens some of the rocks. The soft rock around it erodes and creates that uneven surface. Then in that lower section down there, it looks darker. That's where the waves are actually cutting grooves into the side. The Razorback once extended much further out into the sea. However, the waves eroded the base and various parts of it dropped on off. Our next stop on the Great Ocean Road was on a cliff overlooking a stretch of coast called Shipwreck Coast because of the treacherous journey along the coast. The Lockhart was a clipper ship which had sailed from Ireland 3 months earlier with a crew of 36 and 18 passengers. The night before they would arrive in Melbourne, they had to navigate through a strait between Cape Otway and King Island, but a mist had obscured the lighthouse on the cape, and at dawn the ship was so close to shore that the wind, waves, and tides struck the ship, pushing it towards the cliffs. They almost escaped, but the ship hit a reef and was stuck. Eventually, the force of the waves and the wind broke the ship apart, and all but two people perished as the ship sank. One of the survivors was Tom Pierce, an 18-year-old crew member who clung to an overturned lifeboat for hours until the tide pushed him into a beach. He heard someone screaming in the water and swam out and for an hour struggled to bring 18-year-old Eva Carmichael to the shore. Eva was the only survivor of her family of 8, losing her parents and 5 sisters. Tom continued on to live the rest of his life on the sea, while Eva returned to Ireland and married a nobleman. As we continued along the Great Ocean Road, we stopped near some eucalyptus trees because that is where the koala bear lives. They basically eat the bark of the tree, and because it's so lacking in nutrition, they basically sleep almost all the day. And here's one of the guys up there. He's probably doing the sleeping part right now. And after he eats, he'll go right on back to bed. So far on the Great Ocean Road, we had seen a lot of cliffs, beaches, and ocean. But this was the most surprising stop of all at Mate's Rest, which is a tropical rainforest, a small one, but a rainforest nonetheless, featuring beech trees that grow up to over 300 feet in height. And in 1936, they brought over some seedlings from California of California redwoods. And those guys are already up over 200 feet in height and continuing to thrive. For the parking lot, we decided to go on a tour around through the rainforest there. It's a circular route. Take a look at a tree that used to be there. This will give you an idea coming up of how tall they are. That's a typical tree in many areas of the rainforest. I have no idea what these are, but they sure do look different. I wonder if I can hide in here. What do you think? A good place to play and hide? And one more idea to give you how tall the trees are in that rainforest. For any of you Californians that have or have visited California and gone down the Big Sur, Highway 1, south of San Jose on down to LA, this road in this stretch is very much reminiscent of it. A lot of curves and coming down into little bridges over creeks that feed into the ocean. So very reminiscent of Highway 1 in California. Okay, here's a panorama. After a full day of traveling along the ocean road with all the sights previously seen here on the video, we arrived at the beginning, which is, of course, where most tours start. We opted for the reverse tour, which, believe me, saved a lot of crowds because most of them start here. And we were down at the south end working our way up before all the crowds arrived at the parking places down there. Had a great day and was looking forward to another day of sightseeing in Melbourne. And after that, on to Sydney. The next day, the weather in Melbourne took a turn a little bit for the worse. It's sort of chilly and drizzly, so I decided to do some sightseeing in town. Here you see one of their historic train stations, one of the several. And here you see the various clocks for the different lines with the line numbers and destinations underneath them. They're not being used anymore. They have digital ones inside, but these are here for the tourists, thankfully. Decided to head over to the State Library. Melbourne is the capital of the state of Victoria in Australia. And let's just say that it's an impressive facility, not just outside, but wait till you see inside. An incredible library. I'm looking down at the reading areas with the lamps, everybody and their computers and stuff. But the dome is just incredible. It's not just the fact that it's a dome and it's 6 stories high, it's just the immense size of this thing.
In the upper levels of the library, they have a number of different exhibit rooms, one of which features some ancient manuscripts. Here you see a text from the Hebrew Old Testament. And can you imagine having to rescribe or copy that to another scroll? Those guys were amazing. This is a page from a Latin Bible back in the Middle Ages, I'm guessing. It is the book of Job. I believe it's chapter 26. We take a look at it up close here in a bit. In the illustration, you can see that Job's three friends have come over to comfort him. But as the saying goes, with friends like that, who needs enemies? And Job's comment was, "You guys are miserable comforters." Later in the afternoon, I went back to my hotel, picked up my bags, and walked up to Melbourne's Southern Cross Station. This is the terminus of the overnight or day train from Sydney down to Melbourne. In this particular case, I'm taking the night train up to Sydney, and I've gone ahead and booked a sleeper compartment. It's a two-berth compartment, and it will turn out that I've got the whole thing to myself for that evening, which was kind of nice. Here you see the ticket counter. It was very well maintained, very modern station. And you take a quick look around here for just a few more seconds. And we'll take a look at our train when it comes in tonight. And here we see our train coming in from Sydney. It's running about an hour late, which means we'll pull out of here about an hour late. I'm meeting my friend Bruce Marlin and his family tomorrow morning for an adventure, but I put some wiggle room into the schedule, so we'll see if there's enough wiggle room for me to make the connection in Sydney, or I have to take another train up to meet Bruce and his family. We'll take a quick look at the first class sleeping compartment. They provide you with an amenity kit, some snacks, take a dinner order if you need to order dinner on the train. And then in the morning, they even have a breakfast served right there in your sleeper. So that's really pretty cool. And it was a quiet ride overnight, not too bumpy. So we'll go on from here. As you can see, we had about a 12-hour journey heading from Melbourne up to Sydney. Australia is a huge continent, and this is a very, very small part of the country here. It was pretty uneventful during the night, and we'll pick up the rest of the trip on my next travelogue.